Hey guys, and welcome back to a little what if scenario, where we basically ask ourselves how our favorite shows and movies and games would have changed if one or two things would have been a tiny bit different. This format isn't here to give a definitive answer, but to give you one or two of my personal scenarios. Feel free to agree or disagree and let me know your opinion. So, have you ever asked yourself, hey, look at me, I get older and older, and Ash stays basically the same since the past 20 years. What gives? Well, unlike other videos, we don't ask for reasons why Ash won't age. I don't go into theories here like he's in a coma or Ho-Oh cursed him with eternal youth, but instead we explore the scenario of an aging Ash. So, what would be different? A little warning, this is just my 2 cents here. Feel free to agree or disagree. So, let's set our framework here. In my scenario, I would imagine Ash would be a 10-year-old when the first season of the anime came out. That means that he would be a regular 10-year-old boy in 1997. And these days, by this point, as of the latest anime entry, Pokemon Journeys, he would be 35 years old. Well, we can assume that the first season will work more or less the same as it does for regular Ash. He travels with Misty and Brock, doing adventures, facing Team Rocket over and over again, but not only Ash ages, but also everyone around, including Team Rocket, his mom, and of course Brock and Misty too. Now we face some existential problems. Until which age is it normal to roam the world and become a champion? I mean, there's regular jobs in this world as well. But when is the time he would need to decide what to do with his life in the Pokemon world? Since this world isn't one by one our world, I give him the advantage of not being in a situation like we are, but rather say that Ash would need to decide it in his early 20s. That means that Ash would roam the world up until the Diamond and Pearl era. He would age with his Pokemon, there would be a little crisis every now and then as we all faced them when growing up, maybe even a couple of fights with Pikachu and his friends. Maybe even the thought of losing a friend over the years, which is a very painful experience. Ash would fall in love and break up, maybe even with one of his companions. There definitely is a lot to explore in this scenario, and honestly, it's a bit of a shame we never went this path. But then again, Pokemon, at least to me, was always a little safe space. My place where everything was good, and one of the reasons I watched the anime was because it was not the real world. So, what would you think? What would be a big crisis for Ash look like as he grows up? Personally, I would say maybe at the Diamond and Pearl time, Ash is in his 20s, he would realize that, well, he's not a bad trainer, but he isn't champion tier either, having lost each league except for the filler ones until this point. Ash becomes more and more angry in my scenario. First at his Pokemon, then at his companions, but very soon he realizes that indeed he is the problem. Instead of trying over and over again and eventually becoming a champion in Alola, he decides to grow up and maybe even go get a job. Discussing this idea with my community, user Nick had the idea of Ash maybe working for Professor Oak. And honestly, I can see that. Well, technically he already is by filling the Pokédex, but you get the idea. That doesn't mean that he gives up on battling completely. There's still the occasional battle during his field research. And who knows, Oak used to be a trainer as well, and a goddamn good one, so maybe Ash can learn a lot from him. Would he be in a relationship? Or maybe even married? I would say so, yeah. Forgive me for the ship, but I always thought that Misty and Ash have some good chemistry. And as user Nick said, what better way to meet your future wife than stealing her bike? I really like the idea. And for this scenario, I keep it this way. Is it a relationship lasting for life? Who knows? Ash is in his 20s and life is good for him. The years go by and Ash has settled to research Ho-Oh, since it was the first Pokemon to lit his spark to discover the Pokemon world. He would see new trainers along the way, with Pokemon he wouldn't even know to exist when he started his journey all those years ago with Pikachu. And even though he very much enjoys what he's doing, there's always this one question in the back of his head. How would things have played out if he kept going for becoming a champion? So, when facing new trainers, he's not only curious but also quite jealous of them. them having the chance to still go for their goals. He thinks back of the days where life was easy, there was no responsibilities, and the world seems endless. A little smile comes across his face when he thinks of all the fruitless effort of Team Rocket trying to steal his Pikachu. Eventually, as they grow older as well, they kinda gave up on the idea. And some even rumored that Team Rocket as a whole have disbanded completely after Giovanni disappeared. But Ash now has responsibilities of being an adult. People are depending on him. And even though this sounds sad, it is something Ash grew to enjoy. Now he's the one people look up to, even though he's not the champion. His life isn't boring by any means. He still has his fair share of mysteries to uncover. And who knows, maybe one day he will come face to face with Ho-Oh. Not all is good, and he still has some struggles, like we all have. A super realistic version, maybe even tapping into the idea of his marriage coming to an end, and that he has to start his life from scratch. But that could be a tad too dark. But what do you think? Would you like a scenario where Ash would age as the viewer does? What do you think would all the other characters do, like Jesse and James, Brock, May, Max, and all the other people he met along his way? Do you agree or disagree? Feel free to let me know in the comments. If you have an idea for an upcoming What If, feel free to join my Discord server or let me know in the comment section. Also, big thanks to my first channel members, Chirp94 and Howie and Kioma. You guys are seriously the best. Until the next time, see ya!